In the 2017 NFL Draft, the Kansas City Chiefs changed the league forever when they traded up to the number 10 pick to get Patrick Mahomes. What if I told you that the Baltimore Ravens won this trade? This is going to be a very long video, but trust me, it's worth it because this is mind-blowing. The original trade was between the Chiefs and the Bills. The Chiefs got the number 10 pick, the Bills got the 27th pick, the 91st pick, and the pick that makes this video as crazy and as long as it will be, the 2018 first-round pick, pick 22. Let's get the simple stuff out of the way before we get complicated. The Chiefs, out of this trade up to number 10, they get Patrick Mahomes. We know what happens to him. I'm not going to spend time talking about him because we all know how good he is. The guy on this Bills defense right now is Trey White. That's who the Bills got out of this trade, picking him number 27 overall. Obviously, great value. Definitely a win-win so far. So far, the Chiefs have Mahomes and the Bills have Trey White. Pick 91, though, did get flipped, and now we start to get into some complicated stuff. The Bills took pick 91, which they got from Kansas City, and flipped it to the Rams. In that trade, the Rams got pick 44, which they spent on Gerald Everett, who was all right, solid, now plays for Seattle. And pick 91, which they spent on John Johnson, who I will say was better than solid, but not amazing, but was a very, very good player for the Rams until he left in free agency and joined the Browns. The Bills got pick 37, and they spent it on Zay Jones, who is a man who levitates, and other than that is a solid, at best, wide receiver 3. The Bills took pick 149, which they got from the Rams, packaged it, and put it together to pick 56 and 75, sent it to the Falcons for pick 63. So who did the Bills take with that pick? Their best offensive lineman over the last 5 years and one of the best tackles in football, Deion Dawkins. The Falcons spent those 3 picks on backup linebacker Duke Riley, an absolute ball hawk at Devontae Casey, who led the league in picks in 2018. He now plays in Dallas. And career backup running back Brian Hill. And that would be the journey of pick number 91. You thought that was complicated? That was nothing compared to what we are about to get into with pick number 22 in 2018. Pick 22 is a monster. This was traded to Baltimore, as well as pick 65, for pick 16 and 154. Before we get into what Baltimore did with their picks, let's talk about the Bills. We talked about one of the centerpieces of the Bills' defense in Trey White. They got another one here at pick 16, Tremaine Edmonds. We don't need to spend time on pick 154. That was career backup safety Ciaran Neal. Because the Ravens love to move up and down, both of these picks were traded, and they set off 7 more trades that we are now going to get into. The Ravens took pick 22, which they got from Buffalo, and packaged it with pick 215 and sent it to Tennessee for 25 and 125. The Titans spent their pick on Rashaan Evans, who for 4 years was a solid inside linebacker, was a starter in 2019 and 20. Last year, got benched, and this offseason got cut. He just signed with Atlanta. I'm not sure why they cut him and not make him a backup, but regardless, he's going to be playing and probably starting in Atlanta next year. Former MLB prospect for the Pittsburgh Pirates, Hayden Hurst, was picked at 25 for the Ravens. He played tight end and was not good enough to beat out Mark Andrews, who the Ravens took in the 3rd round. More on him a little bit later, by the way. The Ravens went on to actually trade him to Atlanta. We're not going to go over that in this video, but that pick eventually became J.K. Dobbins, so cool. Here's something kind of cool. Later in the draft, the Ravens and Titans made another trade, so pick 215 was actually sent back to Baltimore in this trade. So the Titans took pick 215, packaged it with pick 162, and traded up to 152, where they took Dane Cruikshank, who's been a solid special teamer for Tennessee. You might remember him from a fake punt a few years ago. That's the only reason why I recognize the name. And the Ravens got pick 162, which they spent on a wide receiver by the name of Jordan Lasley, who didn't play a snap in his rookie year, and then in the 2nd year, got cut in training camp after getting into a fight with a player and punting a football into a pond. No, I'm not kidding. But pick 215, my boy, Bradley Bozeman, who for a couple of years was a good left guard for us. Then last year went over to center and was one of the best in the league. He was just recently signed by the Panthers and is a phenomenal guy and is really turning into a great player. Now going back to the Ravens, who pick 125 was traded to the Eagles. The Ravens took pick 125, which they got from the Titans, and packaged it with pick 52 and their 2nd round pick next year to move back up into round 1 to get pick 32 and pick 132. And who did the Ravens get with pick 32? That's right, Lamar Jackson. They took Jaleel Scott with pick 132, who was so productive in the NFL, the best picture I could find with him was him at practice. The true OGs might remember him as the guy that Michael thought was the X factor to help us beat the Chiefs in 2020. Spoiler alert, he was wrong. Before we get into pick 52, which they traded to Indy, let's go over the 2 picks they did make. Pick 125 was spent on Avonte Maddox, who has shown flashes of brilliance and flashes of not being an NFL caliber player. And they spent the Ravens' second-round pick from 2019 on Miles Sanders, who's obviously been a very good running back for Philly ever since being drafted there. The Eagles then took pick 52 and flipped it to the Colts. The Colts got pick 52 and 169, where the Eagles got pick 49. The Eagles got a top 7 tight end in the NFL in Dallas Goedert. The Colts got Kamoko Toure, who spent most of his career injured, and when he's not injured, he's not that good, and backup running back Jordan Wilkins. So, yeah, the Eagles definitely won this deal. And that is the insane journey from pick 22. But pick 22 was not the only pick they got from this trade. They also got pick 65, which was also traded to the Raiders. This is not going to be as complicated, but we're not done yet. The Ravens took pick 65 and flipped it to the Raiders in exchange for pick 75, 152, and 212. The Raiders spent that pick on Brandon Parker, who didn't really play in his first couple of years, but last year spent almost the entire season as a starting right tackle and wasn't bad. The Ravens spent pick 212 on Greg Senat, a tackle who never really played for us. Pick 152 was flipped to Tennessee earlier in the video, and pick 75 was traded to Kansas City in our final, thank God, trade of the video. Ironically enough, right back where we started with the Chiefs. The Chiefs got pick 75, and the Ravens got pick 86 and 122. The Chiefs spent their pick on Derek Nottie, who's been a rotational defensive player who's been not bad for the Chiefs ever since being drafted. Pick 122 was linebacker Kenny Young, who introduced the world to Gardner Minshew by rocking him in the preseason on a perfectly clean tackle, I might add. And with pick 86, the Ravens got Mark Andrews, a top 3 tight end in football. Let's show you the final tallies here of what this trade right here ended up with. Starting things off with the 2 original teams, the Chiefs and the Bills. The Chiefs got Patrick Mahomes and Derek Nottie. The Bills got Trey White, Zay Jones, Deion Dawkins, and Tremaine Edmonds. That's a good haul for both sides for sure. The Rams and the Titans each got 2 solid contributors who left after 4 years. The Rams and Gerald Everett and John Johnson. The Titans and Rashawn Evans and Dan Cruikshank. The Colts got Kamoko Toure and Jordan Wilkins, neither of which did anything. And the Raiders got Brandon Parker, who seems to have his best football ahead of him and looks like he could be a pretty solid player for the Raiders for a while. The Eagles were massive winners in this, getting Dallas Goedert, Miles Sanders, and Avonte Maddox. Falcons, fine, I guess, with Duke Riley, Damani Casey, and Brian Hill. And now the 8 players the Baltimore Ravens got out of this: Hayden Hurst, Lamar Jackson, Jaleel Scott, Bradley Bozeman, Mark Andrews, Kenny Young, and Greg Senat. If you ask me, the Ravens won this trade overall.